And everyone looked at each other like, oh my gosh.
I will give Democrats credit. I think they've been, I mean, possibly unethically, but better marketers probably for the last few decades.
They are phenomenal indoctrinators.
They're really good at it. Yeah. Yeah. So.
I mean, and the method in which they do that is very unethical. I mean, they're indoctrinating children.
So. Yeah.
But it's effective.
Yeah.
How do you
still have to
that?
fight it, right?
Yeah. How do you combat that? I was with a friend last week, and we were in the car, and his 11-year-old daughter was in the car with us. And somehow we started talking about, and his wife was in the car. And somehow we were talking about Kamala, just kind of in passing. Nothing serious, Kamala. It was very, kind of a really surface level conversation. And she says, we're voting for Kamala, right? She's 11. And everyone kind of looked at her like, what? Why? And she's like, because something Brat Summer.
Oh.
She's 11.
Right.
And we're like, where'd you hear that? And she's like, you don't want Kamala to win? She's really good for women's rights. She's 11. And his wife, her mom, said, what women's right? What right?
She's arguing with an 11-year-old.
Yeah, 11-year-old.
Well, it's
what
curious,
right does she not have, do women not have that she's fighting for?
Yeah.
And she says, oh, Mom, you don't care about women's rights? They are getting them at 11 years old. No idea where it's coming from.
I mean,
she's not watching top 10 reasons I love Kamala Harris videos.
She's probably not watching MSNBC.
It is just hidden in somewhere in the YouTube videos she's watching or in TikTok or somewhere in the messaging that you can't see it at the surface level. It's being instilled.
Man.
She's 11.
That's tough.
And everyone looked at each other like, oh my gosh.
I will give Democrats credit. I think they've been, I mean, possibly unethically, but better marketers probably for the last few decades.
They are phenomenal indoctrinators.
They're really good at it. Yeah. Yeah. So.
I mean, and the method in which they do that is very unethical. I mean, they're indoctrinating children.
So. Yeah.
But it's effective.
Yeah.
How do you combat
still have to
that?
fight it, right?
Yeah. How do you combat that?
Well, thankfully, the 11-year-old can't vote. So.
Doesn't mean she won't.
No, right, right. So they've got 7 years to fix that as parents. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's an all-out information war right now. I mean, you see it. You've done such a great job on your podcast, and I can't even imagine all of the stuff that you see with your podcast, that it is just an information war.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So thank you for doing it. I mean, it's shows like this that I think help combat that, right? Where people actually, and I do think podcasts are so important. You know, I was in network news, and what podcasts are doing, especially for ones like this that are really popular and have good followings, but also the smaller ones, it decentralizes media. And so now people can find their sources of information in places other than the big three. Now in 2020, it wasn't really that way, at least not as much as it is now. Right now you've got the Tucker Carlsons that have made the switch over to podcast world. And so I think this birth of a podcast generation is actually really helpful to us because conservatives can get their voice out in a way that I think was harder when you really just had the main big three and the syndicated and stuff. But I think decentralizing media is helpful to us.
But sad note, this may be my last episode.
What?
Because you talk about election integrity, you talk about rigged elections, and I may not have a channel tomorrow. That's just the way it is. This may be the last one.
Well, I think I've been pretty good. I've learned how to dance the dance. But
if they take it all away, it doesn't matter to me. Because I think it's important. I think you should be able to have the conversations that are necessary.
Yeah.
And if they take it away, we'll just start a new one tomorrow.
Good
we
for
start
you.
all over
You'll
again.
Be fine.
What do you think is something that, as far as an election and integrity, what can normal people do to ensure election integrity? Because I get out there and help, but is there anything else people can do?
Well, being part of the process, I think, is the most important thing. Working for your county, getting involved at your county GOP or your state GOP, I think, is the most aggressive thing that you can do, which is what I would love everybody to go do. If you can't do that, just be eyes and ears. You know, keep your eyes and ears open. If it's overused, but if you see something, say something. Or if you hear something weird, report it, because that's the only way things are going to get corrected. And that happened in 2020, but people were reporting them on election day. It just didn't have enough time to catch. So if you can, I don't know if it's law enforcement, if you see something illegal, obviously report it to law enforcement. Or to your local election office, depending on what it is that you witness. But if you can't actually be a part of the process, then I would say, report what you see and just kind of pay attention to what's going on.
You moved here from Florida.
Yes.
And you've been in D.C. 6 months?
Yeah, about.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Very different.
Yes, but I moved to Florida from D.C.
Okay.
So this was kind of like coming home.
Oh, coming back.
Yeah.
What do you think about D.C. and where it is now?
I love D.C. I know conservatives, everybody that I tell that
everyone
that's
just
what
did a
everybody
collective sigh.
They're like, oh, I know all my friends go, you just like being around people who hate you. But no, I don't know. I love D.C. and I love this country, and D.C. is so obviously important to this nation. So I love the city. I think conservatives, people with conservative values, people with American values, we've given up a lot of territory, right? We've physically given up D.C. I mean, it's like 99% liberal, but we've also given up like the industries, right? We've given up Hollywood in a lot of ways. We've given up corporations in a lot of ways. We've given up news media and pharmaceuticals, medicine. I think conservatives generally tend to mind their own business and are like, I don't want to be involved in government. I don't want to be involved. I want to run my business. I want to raise my family. I want to go to church. We tend to be more inward focused, I think. And as a result, we've lost a lot of ground, both physically like DC, but as well as these other industries. So the lesson that I take is if we want to have a self-governed nation, we need to self-govern. And so most conservatives that I talk to are like, I hate government. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to do that. And I get it, but you have to.
It's really dirty business.
It's dirty business, but it doesn't have to be dirty. And the only reason it's dirty is because we've given it up, right? But we're starting to see the reverse happen, right? You look at so many school boards and how many parents have gotten up and stepped up and just said, hey, I don't want these books in our schools. And it's making a difference. Or getting, particular board members kicked off the board and replacing them. It's working and it matters. And so I think we're seeing that. We're seeing the cleansing process take place. I'd love to see it happen, faster. And hopefully in 2 months we'll see a whole new cycle. But
so
we gotta
are
be
you
involved.
saying that DC is savable? Is there hope for this place?
I do, of course. I mean, you're probably asking the wrong person. I'm chronically optimistic. But I'm indicted on 9 felonies.
No big deal.
Fine.
No big deal.
So, no, I am. I'm chronically optimistic. But, yes, I think D.C. is savable. I think America is savable. But it comes down to the American people, right? The American people have to be the ones to save America. It's not going to be... The saving of America is not going to come from Washington, D.C., right? It's going to come from the rest of the country.
Do you think you have to save DC, or can you just, it's so far gone at this point that you forfeit it? And what do you think about this idea of moving the capital?
Moving the capital?
Yeah.
I haven't even seen that.
You've never heard people talk about this? People are saying that it should be in a more central location, that DC was originally picked because it's on the coast and near the water, but really a strategic location, somewhere in the middle is actually more...
I hadn't heard moving the entire capital. I've heard moving pieces of it, like... moving one branch to Omaha and all that. And I love decentralization, right? I'm a true conservative. Like, get it,
You're gonna move to Omaha?
No, which is great because you would have a bunch of conservatives that live in Omaha, running whatever department ends up there. So, I like the idea of decentralizing stuff. I think, I think DC will be saved, but I think the rest of the country gets saved first.